Hi, this is Wally with Last Straw Dog Training out of Concord, North Carolina again. This is pretty much just a little bio on me. I've got my apprentice partner over here, Jeremiah, behind the camera. He's going to be asking a lot of questions that people have asked in the past. This way you'll have those answers.
When did you get interested in training?
Well, I've always loved animals, even since I was a kid. To my mother's dismay, I really loved reptiles when I was a child. Fortunately for her, I kind of grew out of that and started to like the things with fur. When I was in the military, I was assigned to a bomb detachment looking for chemical landmines over in South Korea. Landmines that have been there for a long, long time. And when I saw the discipline they had and the extreme dedication of the animals in the protection of their humans, I thought, you know, there's no way I can't dedicate myself to them.
How long have you been training animals?
Right now, I started back in 90, 91, so 25, 26 years at this point.
Now, you've trained almost most animals, so what types of animals have you trained?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be part of a privately owned zoo for a long time. Bad fallout there, but we won't go into that here. But I got to raise lions, tigers, and wolves and work with all kinds of amazing animals there. Gave me a great chance to study predators and see how training methods are different from one animal species to another. And that's kind of where I wound up discovering that dogs and humans are the only two species that no longer see a difference in one another. So it's not so much teaching our dogs how to do things, it's simply better communications.
When did you decide to start your own company and why?
I guess it was a couple years after I got out of the military. Got offered an absurd amount of money to train protection and attack dogs for paramilitary units. Did that for several years. Of course, that was all before everyone had a camera on their phone. And the last one of those I trained was used as a murder weapon and put down. And for that reason, not only do I not train those types of dogs anymore, I don't even give advice on how to train them.
Why Last Straw Dog Training as the name?
Well, everyone's got a name out there, their name, dog training, or ABC dog training, or canine whatever. But I want people who can't find help anywhere else to know when they look at that last straw on the internet, I'm the last stop they need to make, because I don't turn away from any animal.
Would you agree that any dog can be trained?
Yes and no. Most dogs can be trained. There are some medical issues that they can have that would make it impossible for them to understand what's going on or keep their aggression level low enough that they can be trained as a house animal. And the type of training is also going to be part of that question, because not every dog can be a service dog. You know, every dog can be a house dog, but it takes a dog with a little bit something extra to be a service dog.
We hear this a lot. Age is irrelevant.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if the dog is 8 weeks or 18 years old. If you teach them with positive methods, they will get the lesson. It's the owners that tend to have issues with the age.
You would consider yourself more of a behaviorist first, then trainer second?
Definitely, because in my opinion, I read the dogs, figure out what they're capable of, and then I train the owners on how to communicate better with their animals and get the results they're looking for.
So why don't you use pinch, choke, or electronic collars?
Pinch and choke collars specifically are because the only way they can be used properly is to basically threaten your dog with pain or force. I don't threaten my animals. I communicate with them in an intelligent fashion that lets me get my point across in a way they understand without them being afraid of me. If you tell your dog to sit and they start to shake because they're afraid of hurt, then you haven't trained your dog, you conditioned them. When you use fear and force, you're not teaching your dog how to do something. You're teaching them to do something or else. And that's where I kind of draw the line. You're teaching a new language to another species that does not understand us. And yes, you can think your dog understands everything you have to say, but they are another species of animal. They can get our emotions because they've been around us for so long, but they don't really get our words and their complex meanings. As far as the electronic collars, if it is a correction collar, it relies on humans to be 100% with that correction. That's where the problem lies with it. Because even though it's not a taser strength, it's still not enough on its own. If you're going to use a static shock as a correction, it has to be 100%. And there's no human out there that's going to be 100% with that correction. All it takes is one phone call from your niece or an old friend you haven't talked to in a long time, or the neighbor knocking on your door, and then the dog jumps up on the counter. You don't correct that one, everything else you did before then is gone. So it takes longer to train them using that kind of equipment. Now, not all electronic collars are bad. There are those out there that are 100% on dogs. I'm not crazy about using bark collars, but if you're in an apartment and you're being threatened with legal activity, it may be an option for you. Teaching them not to bark in the first place is a better option, but that's going to take a little bit of time. If you don't have that time, that's still better than the dog being given up, sent to the pound, or flat out euthanized. So in that case, I can tolerate the use of electronic bark control collar. The only real electronic collar that I accept is that for containment purposes. And that's only if you do the training on the invisible fence to begin with. If they understand what is going to happen when they get to a certain range, that's when they will respect it and not leave the yard.
What is your definition of obedience and commands?
Okay, this is something that people get confused a lot. Commands are words that we have given a physical definition to. Sit, bottom on ground. Sit, bottom on ground. If you get the dog into that position and use the word sit when they're in it, over and over and over again, it becomes a command. They understand the definition being when they hear the word sit, they are to put their bottom only on the ground. That's a command. That's not obedience. Once a dog has enough commands that they understand, now we can use those and the correct way to correct a dog and gain obedience. Obedience is when the dog trusts your judgment over their own, because you're not raising a dog to be a dog. They don't need our help for that. I know it's hard to believe. You're raising a dog to be a dog in a human world. There's a lot about our world they don't understand, that they can't comprehend. A laser pointer. To them, it's a bug. To us, it's a device. So we have to find better ways to communicate with them, because we're supposed to be the more intelligent species. And I use that term very loosely in that segment. So if you like this video, check us out on Facebook, give us a like and share there, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you.